glad you could join me. You joined me at the Gisela show on Nissan Communications. First and foremost, as always, let's say hello to Amnon, our producer.
Hello, Gisela.
Hello. What a sad day it is
What a
today.
sad day.
It just really, we turned on this morning. My husband and I, we always watch Joe in the morning, at 8 o'clock. And before that, I looked at my tablet and just to see if I had any messages or so on. And I saw 50 dead in Las Vegas. And I said, what? No way. Well, it did. 58 now. And so many more hurt. What a tragedy. What a tragedy. And all day long, the news media was examining every angle and every possibility. The one possibility nobody said, was, everybody was, we have to outlaw guns. Well, you know what? The guns don't shoot people. They don't do that on their own. There has to be a finger that triggers that gun. And behind that finger, there's a brain, there is a motivation, there is somebody with thinking. Animals don't pull a trigger. Thinking man pulls a trigger. Now, the motivation is each time different whenever there's a tragedy like that. Sometimes it's terrorists, sometimes it's vindictiveness, sometimes it's always a motivation there. This man was 64, 62. I don't know. I think he was 62.
They're saying 64.
Or 64. He was a Marine. He was in service. He was an honorable man, apparently, who has been steadfast and a good, hard-working American all his life. Now, what happened? Why would a man like that do this? Why? What do you think? What do you think, Amnon, caused this man to do this?
I have no earthly idea.
Yeah. Well, see,
something had to snap, but he obviously thought it through. He planned for it. He set himself up in a situation where he knew exactly what he was doing. But I don't know. That's why I wish we had him alive.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, he also did not really leave a note, which
Right.
I find very strange. When you do something like that, wouldn't you leave a note and explain why you're doing this?
Only if you're vain.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I didn't want to laugh, but no, I mean, that's really
You can't expect a crazy man to do anything that's normal people think about.
No, but he's not crazy.
Oh, he is.
He has not shown that he was crazy.
He did not show.
Here's what
he did. Wait. He did not show that he was crazy in the past. But you don't know what happened in the last week or 2 or 3 or a month.
But this does not, something like this, psychologically, I have some psychology background. And let me tell you, something like this, you don't do on a spur of a moment. You don't get up
Exactly.
and say, I'm going to plan this and I'm going to mow down as many people as I can with my Kalashnikov here. You don't do that on a spur. Here's what I think might have happened. And I think this is something we cannot prevent. unless we understand it. We have to understand it. If we cannot understand it, we will never ever be able to prevent incidents like that. They will escalate. Other people will do it. It will continue to, people will continue to do things like that because we don't understand it. But here is one way of what might have happened. Do you know? I mean, I love the internet. I really do. I look, where am I? On the internet, right? Uh, it's a fabulous, fabulous tool for us. But it also separates us very much so. Very, very much so. People are more and more isolated. And let me tell you something. In my practice, I see it more and more. People come to me and say, well, I have anxiety. Well, what kind of anxiety do you have? Well, I have anxiety. And I said, well, what does it feel like? Does it feel like you're excited, you are frightened, or does it feel like you're lonely, or does it feel like all of those things can produce anxiety? And I usually I get, I am lonely, especially from women. But the men, I'm sure, are affected too because I don't have that big of a practice with men. My practice is more with women, probably because I am a woman and I do understand women. But most of the time it's loneliness. Now, could it have been that this man had anxiety, that this was a long-standing, he had a problem with our government, he had a problem with the way things are run, he had a problem with all these natural disasters that we are having, which are really, I mean, horrific. Within the last months, we've had more deaths and more destruction and more hurt and pain than I have ever experienced before. Never have I experienced that much compounded for really in a relatively long time, because usually you have maybe a hurricane here or you have a disaster there or a fire there, and you know it passes in a few days. But this has been going on and on, compounded with the fear that our government creates too. And I don't care if you're Trump or Plump or whoever you are. I don't care what you believe in. But this government has not done a very good job of making their people happy and making people complacent, and much to the other way. More so create more fear, more anxiety, more angst, more frustration. These kind of things compound with the internet, who keeps us really separated. Texting somebody is not the same as having a friend and having somebody that you can be close with and talk to and say, you know, I have a problem, I have a pain, I have a mental problem, I have this, I am taking these drugs, I'm not feeling good with these drugs are not making me feel good, they're making me feel bad. People don't talk to their doctors, they don't talk to their health, they don't have health professionals. We don't have family anymore that we notice it. The man was virtually living by himself, had this woman he was occasionally living with, and that was it. He didn't have very much contact with his brother. So I'm wondering if this was not a compoundness of over and over, and he finally said, enough already, and I'm going to take as many people with me as I can. Couldn't that be a viable thing? So, and if that is the one that, if that is so, which I do think it probably is, It's either that he's been taking drugs that made his mind schizophrenic, that he thought he was persecuted. Many people react to drugs like that. Many people. They get very paranoid. And that can make you pick up your gun if you choose to and go and shoot those bad people that make you paranoid. But we have to solve that. We cannot solve that with more police. We certainly can't solve that with more searching for guns, and certainly not by outlawing all guns. It's not going to be solved with that. Even though I'm not an NRA supporter, definitely not. I don't have a gun in my house. I will never have one. I don't believe in guns. But I believe in the right of people to choose so. I do believe in our rights of freedom, which are taken away more and more with these acts. They backfire on all of us. So why don't we see that we do something on our own? The government is not going to help us with this. They show that they are really not. They can't. They cannot. More guns and more violence will not change this. What will change it? Us talking to each other, watching your neighbor, seeing that your neighbor is not totally isolated, reaching out to family members, talking to them, not on Twitter, not sending a message on Facebook. That's all very nice, and it's nice for a day, or if your relatives are in another country, it's a nice quick way to keep in touch. Don't get me wrong, I like all of that. But you know what? A letter written once in a while on paper in your handwriting might do a whole lot of good for somebody who feels sad, sorry for themselves, hurt, frustrated, lonely, mad in what's happening. Every time all of these mass shootings before, when they looked into really the motivation, they usually, I mean, these teams, the FBI teams and so on, that do these research, they're very smart people, and they're very, very good in what they do. They really are. And they usually find a motivation, but nobody ever tells us really the motivation and say, well, the man was really just so frustrated with everything around him and so lonely and so upset with the world. And nobody ever said what he must have gone through, what pain this man must have gone through to do that. Can you imagine? Any of you who are listening, could you imagine taking a gun and shooting so many people wildly? That man must have been in an awful lot of pain. Even hate and frustration causes pain. And if we can stop, I mean, the tragedy is beyond words. But if we can stop and say, let's help each other. Let's help each other. Let's have the internet and all that, but reaching out. Now, before this happened on Saturday, I have a friend who I haven't seen for like 2 months. And I was really concerned about her. And I kept saying, I called her a couple of times, we spoke a few words, but it wasn't really anything. Finally, I said, I called Sunday morning and I said, listen, I'm going to prepare a fabulous dinner tonight and I want you to come and bring your boyfriend and, we're going to have a great evening. Well, I don't know. I almost dragged her. She finally came and I sat her down for 5 minutes and I said, listen, you need to talk to me. I'm your friend. And if you don't talk to me, A, I could never ever help you. B, maybe I couldn't help you. But you know what? It's going to be so much easier, whatever you're carrying, if you talk to someone, that somebody is on your side. I don't want to make this man out to be so, no, it's a horrific thing. I'm not saying anything else, but I am saying we have to have more compassion. We have to have more understanding with each other. There's so little understanding with each other. I'm appalled at that. I really am appalled. We are people, we're humans, we are all brothers and sisters, we are all living in this country and in this world. And we need to, and when there's a disaster, a hurricane or whatever, everybody helps. And all those people that were shot, everybody helped. Everybody was there. Did you see the long lines that were giving blood? They all helped. But why not do that beforehand? Why not do that beforehand? Watching over each other. That is one of the Christian, all the religions talk about that. Every one of them. Be responsible for the one next to you. I really am. I really urge everybody that this should be a wake-up call for everyone. Nobody. Unfortunately, we don't have large families anymore. Very few people have large families anymore. And if they have large families, they often are torn apart, living on all four corners of the earth. And it's very hard then. I don't have any family here in this country other than my husband. But I have a few selected people that I decided I'm going to be in charge of. And I make sure that they talk to me. I make sure that I understand what medication they're taking. I make sure that the doctors that they are going to, are the right doctors. I often drive them. I make sure that I get to see them and that they talk to me. And if they have a problem, that they can come to me. We all should be doing that. We all should be doing that. And I'm sure that if that man would have had at least one person like that, this tragedy would not have happened. It would not have happened. You don't snap, your brain doesn't go from 1 second to the next. 1 second here, you are this ordinary, wonderful, nice person, and the next second, you're this pure evil man who shoots down all these people. It doesn't happen like that. There is usually a grade that they go through. And that should be considered. It should be really considered when we look at this. And like I said, the government can't help us with that. More police will not help us. Taking away all the guns, every one of the guns in every household. Do you think that would stop anybody who wants to do this?
No.
There you go. It's not going to help. Do you think more police more police, also with machine guns, in military garb, do you think that makes us less anxious?
It all depends what country you're in. I mean, in some countries, when you see police walking around with machine guns, it's normal and it's fine and they're supposed to be. That's how it is in Israel.
Yeah.
You don't get anxious when you see somebody with a machine gun, you know.
Right. Well, we are in America. We are
Yeah,
not in
I know.
Israel.
Yeah, in the States, absolutely, it's you know. Yeah.
Makes me anxious.
Yeah.
Makes me feel like not
I
like I'm
don't. I don't
protected.
even. I don't. I can't understand why they will allow anybody even to buy a machine gun, even with the
That
license.
is
Even
totally
with
different.
license.
But listen, if it wouldn't have been a machine gun, he could have used a rifle, and maybe he was a sniper marksman. Who knows? Next time it's that. Maybe a hand grenade. You can buy hand grenades too.
Yeah, he was a little far too for that.
But whatever. You know, if you are so frustrated, so angry, so hurt, so confused, so beyond yourself, you will find a way to do what you want to do. You will
that's
find
true.
a
That's
way.
true.
And there is only one way, and that is we have to be vigilant, each one of us, not announcing and saying, oh, this guy over there, he acts weird and the police should come. No, we should go and we should talk to a person like that. We don't talk to each other. We do not talk to each other. One of the reasons I wanted to have this show was I wanted to be able to talk to people. And even on this show here, we have given you the opportunity 20,000 times for a chat. Very seldom people go into the chat and ask a question. Very seldom. Why? Why not interact with each other? Internet and all of these wonderful things should not add to the separation. They should enhance our communication. And if we really communicate with each other and not yell at each other and not be angry at each other and not call each other's other names. I mean, like I saw on Facebook today when I was putting this blimp up and saying, you know, why don't we consider what this man may have gone through? I got, you wouldn't believe I was stunned. You know, I was everything under the sun for thinking this way. We have to be human. Humanity means that we take care of each other. And let me tell you, if we don't learn this soon, and only do it when there's a disaster, if we don't do it in everyday life, people are inherently good. They really are. They will, if I know you go down in New York City, somebody stumbles and falls, 20 people are there to help. You know, look at the disasters we had and how they helped each other. I mean, people don't leave other people stranded and in pain and in hurt. But we are not on everyday life vigilant for our neighbor and our family and the people that are around you. I mean, I give very seldom to any kind of charity because I have my own little charity here. I have 2 vets that I take care of, one I house, doesn't pay me any rent. The other one occasionally comes and fixes my car for all of the things that I've helped with. I have one woman who lives without water and electricity. I make sure in the wintertime she has enough firewood and she is warm enough. I have created my own charity. We don't need all these corporations that just make money with it. Create your own charity. See that you are taking care of people. If somebody acts a little weird and withdrawn, strike up a conversation, invite them to a cup of coffee, find out what may be the problem. And if you cannot find out the problem, then have somebody else to help. Call somebody to it. See that they somehow get usually when somebody plans something really out of the norm and bad, what happens is they usually are withdrawn for a while, and they go within themselves and they do their own, and their head is just in a very bad place. When you see that on somebody, try to find out what's bothering them. It may be the medication that they are taking, or it may be just that they are so frustrated, lonely, and upset. And that can cause all kinds of bad things in your head. Usually when somebody does something like this, they plan it, they go into this world that is really, it's a closed world, it's a frustrating world, and they have written books about this. So we know it exists. So I don't understand why we do not help each other here in that way. So what do you think, Amnon? Do you think that might be a good strategy of going forward on this sad day?
I mean, a lot of people do help others.
Of course.
I
don't deny that.
Yeah, but more and more people are in their own little world because of the internet. You're right.
Yeah. Not only because of the internet, but because we also have lost trust with each other. Have you noticed that many, well, I have noticed that very much so. Many women, especially women, they will not talk to their friends, maybe their best girlfriend that they have known for years and years and years. Maybe they may say, that they are abused, or that they are lonely and sad and they're frustrated. And it's amazing. It's amazing. We have had several of these shootings already. None of them were women. They were all men. Because men deal with frustration and anger and all of these negative feelings very different than women. Women will swallow it. They will get sick. They get cancer. They go and some women, they go shopping. They just spend their husband's money and say, hey, listen, you won't talk to me. That's all right. I'll go and spend your money. But men are different. They don't talk to each other, and they don't talk even of feelings. I talk to my husband and I said, well, he has a very good friend who is sometimes a little weird. And I asked him, I said, what do you guys talk about when you're together? He said, nothing. I said, well, what do you mean? You spend 2 hours doing nothing? Well, no, they talk about football, and they talk about those things that really are not of great importance. They don't talk about their feelings to each other. They don't. And women, more and more, the older women get, they have this fear of of that they can't talk to each other because, uh, well, then they are not as well, I would say, as much as the other one. You know, I mean, they don't talk to each other and say, well, you know, I only have $500 Social Security. I don't know how I make it, and often I don't eat. They don't say that. They don't. They don't say, I am so upset because my son or my daughter won't talk to me. They decided that they don't need me anymore. They don't talk about things like that. Maybe to their best girlfriend. And that's why I'm saying we need to have, this is not something that feelings like that and frustration like that, you don't talk to a stranger to. You only talk to somebody that you know and trust. So that's why I'm saying we need to all have a small group of people that bands together and that trust each other. If you don't have family, then make a family with these people and talk to each other, and not just on Facebook. I hope that we can, you know, one of the reasons why religion was really started and a single God, a single being was started, because men inherently knew we are violent and beastly, and we can be. And the only way we are going to be kind and good to each other is by effortful and purposeful going towards it, helping each other, making ourselves free of attachments, of bad thoughts too, you know. I was to a singing bowl meditation the other day, and the person who did the singing bowls were, if you don't know what that is, these are large crystal bowls that are filled with water somewhat, and then the person that conducts the ceremony plays these, and she can make them into all kinds of beautiful sounds. It was just really magical. It was very, very pretty. If you ever have in your area that there is something like that, please do go and attend. You will be pleased that you did. But we did talk about exactly that also, you know, how we are not close with each other. You know, I'm not saying be close with the whole world, but be at least close with the community that you're in, and join a community, join any kind of community, a church community, or I don't know, even if you are so inclined to chess or knitting community, I don't care. A community where people meet on a regular basis and get to know each other. If you feel weird to talk to your neighbor, or your neighbor is really not somebody that you want to be in contact with, you know, but even though we've lived here 30 years and I hardly ever see my neighbors, but let me assure you, whenever I see them drive by, or whenever I do see them and we wave to each other, just, I look at their face, and I hear from other neighbors who know them, and I'm in contact, and I hear and I know what's going on. And let me assure you, if I would feel that there is something going on that is not right, I would be there. I would knock on their door and I would say, can I help? Because that's the Christian thing, or let's say that's a humane way of living. We need to take care of each other. And I'm sure that that man was not, obviously he was not taken care of. And obviously he didn't take care of himself. So that's what he did. And those are the results. And it is very, very, very sad. So sad. I mean, you know, I can understand a hurricane. We can't do anything about that. I can also understand that we have an earthquake. Can't do it. It's equally as sad and even more horrific. But, you know, it's sad. We can't do anything about that. But this, we can. We can do something about it. And we should. So please, all of you who are listening, please make sure that you watch over your neighbors, your community, the people that you know, the people at your workplace, the people that you know or that you even just barely know. Watch how they greet you, if they all of a sudden change in behavior terribly. If they do, try to go and help, or if you can't do that, try to alert someone who would, a priest, a teacher, in the extreme case, the police. You know, it is up to us to live the life that we want to live, not up to the government. The government has nothing to do with that. We decide how we want to live. And if we live in humanity, friendship and kindness, and not in a world of where me, I don't have time for that right now. I just send a text message. Well, if we want to live only like that, well, those are the kind of results we are going to expect. And with that, my dear friends, I will end this very sad day. And I will see you next Monday at 5 o'clock with hopefully a much more cheery note. Also of probably of what we should be doing with our pets. I've gotten some new information about pet poisoning and so on, which might be very interesting to you. Also of CBD oil. Yes, CBD oil. Much new information has come about. Some of it great, some of it to be pondered. So join me next Monday at 5 o'clock. I am here, the Gisela Show. Amnon, thank you very much for the opportunity. And listen, guys, if during the week you have some time, go on the Nissan Communication channel. There are lots of great programs on that. Go on it, pick around, and if nothing else, learn from Amnon how to make your computer dance. You can do that, Amnon, right?
Sure.
All right. Bye for now.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.